From the pages of MikeHuckabee.com, where we'll help you make sense of the news and hopefully give you a laugh or two in these troubling times, let's take a look at some of the stories that made up the week that was. And don't forget, you can sign up for my newsletter to get it all beamed to your email inbox twice a day, and it's absolutely free. Wednesday, as the Biden White House once again reassured us that the economy is doing just super, the Commerce Department reported that retail sales dropped by 0.3% in May. That's likely because Americans are putting so much money into their gas tanks, they're cutting back on other spending. And of course, it's not just gas prices that have everyday Americans strapped for cash. The actual value of that cash is worth a whole lot less than it was a year or two ago. Now, where did all this inflation come from? Well, here's former Obama economist Steve Ratner.
There are several culprits. There's Biden and what he's done, and it's not irrelevant, but it's not.
And what is that?
Well, that is all the spending, basically.
Yeah, the relief
the $1,400 tax, the $2 trillion that you and I have talked about a lot that's on the sidelines. Half of that's government money that we gave people to spend, and now they're trying to spend it, so you get inflation.
Yeah.
And as we talked about the other day, left to its own devices, the administration would have proposed another $4 trillion.
I'm surprised that MSNBC Control Room didn't cut the feed when he said all that. That's pretty blunt. Surprisingly honest and accurate. Now, also on Wednesday, part two of the double whammy, the Fed announced that to try to bring down inflation, it is raising interest rates. In fact, it is the biggest rate hike since 1994, and it's likely not to be the last. The Fed assured Americans that it was not trying to deliberately induce a recession. Oh, how reassuring. Some analysts are saying that while we may technically already be in a recession, it's not likely to feel like one to consumers. Now that's funny because just last week another analyst was saying that we may not technically be in a recession, but to consumers it sure feels like we are. It does remind me of an old joke that if you laid all the economists end to end, they still wouldn't point in the same direction. But on a positive, or at least helpful note, there are some things that you should be doing now to protect yourself from the potential effects of higher interest rates. Just head over to MikeHuckabee.com. We'll give you the link. Well, next up, Nancy Pelosi has some ideas on who and what is to blame for all this.
Look, we have the war in Iraq, we have COVID, which has...
She just couldn't figure it out. That's it, the war in Iraq. Now, she may have misspoken, but I'm not altogether certain that she knows what year it is. Be honest with you, I had to listen to that clip 3 times to make sure that someone hadn't found an old clip of her. Turns out she is old, but the clip is fresh, and her analysis just doesn't make any sense. Well, there's more confusion at the White House as Joe Biden appears to suffer from an ice cream brain freeze. That's when a reporter asked him about his son Hunter's $3.5 million payment for who knows what from the richest woman in Russia.
Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina, who did business with your son.
As he just stares off into space. It's one thing if he would just stare down the person who is asking the question. He doesn't even do that. He just stares like, I didn't hear anything. Somebody talking? Maybe he's thinking, if I ignore them, they'll just go away. Now, where's my chocolate chip sundae? Seriously, these are the people allegedly running our country. Looking at that video, it makes you wonder if the president knew where he was and why he was even there. President Biden also said this week that inflation is worse everywhere but here. Another day, another lie, so blatant, it insults our intelligence. So here's the truth. Among 44 advanced economies in a recent analysis, the U.S. ranked 13th for inflation. That is unusually high. We've been among the nations with the lowest inflation for decades. Something happened recently that caused it to explode. Well, here's a little hint. It's because of the terrible policies of the leader of a large nation. That's right. It's obviously Vladimir Putin's fault. But Americans aren't buying that. Heck, even CNN isn't buying it. Take a look.
Put this inflation in context. How bad is the surge in prices?
It's awful. I mean, it's awful, and how people feel about it is even worse. You know, you look at the consumer sentiment right now, and what do you see? This is the worst consumer sentiment ever measured by the University of Michigan, going all the way back since 1952.
Wow.
Since 1952. He was talking about that was before he was born. Heck, dude, that's before I was born. That's how long ago that was. Harry Truman was still president. And I think that I trust Harry Truman's ghost more than I trust Joe Biden to solve this inflation mess. This analysis on CNN was one of the most brutal I've seen from any network. And when Joe's lost CNN, he's lost the country. Well, until next time, these have been the facts of the matter. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, then subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Now, if you didn't like it, you ought to find a Ben Shapiro video to detox you with more facts.